Welcome to the 2013 470 World Championships in La Rochelle, France, which are taking place as part of the 470 class 50th anniversary celebrations. Over 600 sailors from more than 40 nations are in La Rochelle. Among the top we find Belcher and Ryan from Australia, as well as the Argentinian pair of Calabrese and De La Fuente, the Greek champions Mantis and Kagelis, and the French pairing of Le Boucher and Le Bear. In the women's fleet, all eyes are on the Kiwi team of Allaire and Pauri and Lecointre and Geron from France, so fierce battles are expected these 6 days of racing. The weather did not look too promising for the first day of the 5-race qualification series, with the first rain seen here in weeks. An overhead storm only added to the opening day tension in the boat park as sailors prepared their boats. Many teams have already spent a couple of weeks here in La Rochelle in order to train and get used to the weather and the current, so today it is not the first day sailing for most of the teams.
We've been in La Rochelle for a couple of weeks now, I suppose, and just sort of getting used to the conditions, used to the place, back into racing again for us. We had a bit of a break at home between Europeans and now. We're just looking forward to the week. We're hoping the weather holds out, and what we get is what we get.
We start the day in the women's race course, where the 53 boats were split into yellow and blue fleets, racing in a steady breeze of around 15 knots and choppy waves. In the opening race, Lecointre and Geron had a clear lead from the start of the race and rounded the downwind gate in first, with Great Britain's Vegolin and McIntyre following in second, which these two teams held to the finish, with Vadlau and Ogar, the young Austrian pair, catching up to finish in fourth place, and 2008 Olympic champion Ressisi, who partnered with 2012 Olympic rower Cook, were in fifth. Race 2 was another easy win for Lecointre and Geron, who were clearly relishing the conditions. Over in the blue fleet, not the best opener for Croatia's Olympians Ninčević and Zupan, who scored a penalty after starting early. Taking the middle line start were Great Britain's Seabright and Carpenter, who took a clear lead. The rest of the fleet had a fairly even start, and heading upwind split across the left and right tracks as the wind increased to around 18 knots. Minutes after, and at the downwind gate, the Brazilian pair of Oliveira and Babachan were leading, with Mills and Clark in second, and the Dutch pair of Kiranaku and Van Ven in third. Not a lot of things changed till the end, and the Brazilians scored the bullet, filling themselves with confidence. Over on the men's race area, the fleet was split into 3 fleets, with the 114 teams seeded for this opening day based on past performance. A steadily increasing wind had reached gusts of up to 22 knots by their third race of the day. In the yellow fleet, the world number 1 team of Belcher and Ryan had already secured 2 race wins, but took a slightly less impressive start in race 3. Just minutes after the start, the Australians found themselves blocked in the middle of the fleet, with the Greeks Mantis and Kagelis a few meters leeward. Both teams managed to recover with fast boat speed and were up at the front by the second rounding of the downwind gate. The Aussies pushed hard to get their third win, but the Greeks were just too far ahead and took the finishing gun. In the blue fleet, Fantella and Marinic of Croatia, who yesterday won the 470 Legends Trophy, started at the front and looked set to deliver another top 10 performance after a 2 and 8 in the previous 2 races. Austria's world number 2 pair Schmid and Reichsteider steered a faultless upwind leg to round in second, just behind the Kiwi pair of Snow Hansen and Wilcox. After 3 races, Belcher Ryan lead the 470 men fleet, La Boucher Labert in second, and Snow Hansen Wilcox in third. Day 2 would be the concluding day of the 5 races qualification day. A light and shifty breeze kept fleets ashore this morning, with teams spending time preparing their boats, relaxing with other teams, and just waiting in the boat park. 116 teams competing in the 470 men's fleet, with 53 teams in the 470 women. Injury has forced out the gold medalists from the 470 Women Junior Worlds, Lemaitre and Retornaz from France, but the men's gold medalists Jordi Zama and Juan Herp from Spain are testing their fortunes in the senior 470 fleet too. With a stable breeze filling in around 1500 hours, teams headed off to the racecourse where the wind was around 10 knots. 38 nations are competing here in La Rochelle, representing all continents, including teams from China, Philippines, Angola, South Africa, Japan, and Chile, to highlight a few. For 2013, many teams are just starting back into their Olympic campaigns, with the World's Championships proving an ideal benchmark of their international performance. The lineup in the men's yellow fleet includes many renowned teams, including the world #1 pair of Belcher and Ryan and Austria's Schmidt-Reichstadter. Hitting up with them off the start line were Brazil's Mendes and Thiessen. The Aussies sailed fast and managed once again to climb to the front of the pack in the middle of the first upwind, putting in another outstanding performance to add to their scoreline of 2 race wins and a second place. On to the downwind, and the Australians had extended their lead, with Israel's young team of Cohen and Froelich, who last week claimed the bronze medal at the Junior Worlds, in second, and Argentina's Olympic bronze medal pair close to them. The Aussies sailed their own race, with the Israelis and Argentinians choosing opposite sides of the downwind gate. As these two headed back upwind, the breeze increased and the right-hand side chosen offered up more pressure, helping the pair to take a second-place finish. The Blue Fleet were up on the track next, and after a general recall had an even start, with most of the teams choosing to take the left side of the upwind track, where the breeze was a bit stronger. The British pair of Rogers and Willis claimed the front of the pack early in the race, with Brownlee and Hauser from Switzerland close behind during the downwind. Further back in the fleet were the French 470 heroes Labouchere and Lebert, along with Croatia's Fantella and Marinitz. In the women's yellow fleet, Australia's 2008 Olympic gold medal helm Redchichi and new crew Cook, who competed in the rowing event at the 2012 Olympics, secured their first ever race win together in the day's opening race. Great Britain's Seabright and Carpenter sealed the second-placed finish, with Austria's Vadlau and Ogar finishing in 5th. Defending world champions and Olympic silver medalists Mills and Clark finished outside the top 10, but fought back to win the final race of the day. Shifty conditions were a challenge and brought some upset around the track. France's recently crowned 470 European champions Lecointre and Giron were invincible in the Blue Fleet, claiming another race win after a thrilling battle to the finish line with Japan's Yoshuda and Yoshioka and China's Wang and Huan. In the 470 men, the fleet are now split into gold, silver and bronze fleets for the final stage, with the women allocated to gold and silver fleets. 7 more races are scheduled over the next 3 days ahead of the 8-boat medal race on Saturday. On to the first day of the 7-race final stage, with the fleet split into gold, silver and bronze in the 470 men, with 39 boats in each, and in the 470 women there are 27 boats in the gold fleet and 26 in the silver. A year after the 2012 Olympics, and all the top 470 teams are here in contention. Another familiar face in the boat park is the now retired Malcolm Page, who has been enjoying the 50-year celebrations. Consistent results were hard to achieve, with leaderboard extremes knocked out by many teams, including Olympic gold medalists Ele and Powery, who delivered a 1st and 18th, and their teammates in the 470 men, Snow Hansen and Wilcox, who scored a 15th and 1st. Both the 470 men and women gold fleets were up on the Alpha course today, and milling around ahead of the start are the Croatian teams, 470 women's European champions Lecoindre and Géron from France, China's Zhu and Yu, 2012 Olympic helm Labouchere and Crew Lebert from France, along with Sweden's 2012 Olympic helm Dahlberg and new Crew Bergstrom, and the 2012 Olympic bronze medal pair from Argentina, Calabrese and De La Fuente. In the first race of the day in the 470 men gold fleet, France's 2012 Olympic helm Labouchere and Crew Lebert opted for the committee boat end of the start, a few metres to windward of Great Britain's Patience and Glanfield, along with the Swiss partnership of Brauchli and Hauser. All three headed up the right side of the track. Would this choice pay? The New Zealand pair of Saunders and Wilcox had a bad start and were way back in the fleet at the middle of the upwind leg. For the Croatians and Argentinians who headed to the right, along with the Greeks, their choice was not the best. On to Mark II, and the British pair of Patience and Glanfield rounded ahead of Japan's Matsunaga and Yoshida, with Brauchli and Hauser in 3rd. Many of the teams who had been top of the leaderboard were by now relegated to the back of the fleet as they struggled to read the challenging conditions. Australia's Belcher and Ryan were back in 10th in the fleet. The downwind gate saw the Swiss pair up close with the British and Finland's Lindgren brothers chasing, but the race belonged to the British pair, who maintained their lead by a safe margin, with Finland in 2nd, Swiss in 3rd, and France's Gilbert and Guillaume in 4th. A tricky opening race which certainly shuffled the leaderboard on this first day of finals. The women's gold fleet started next with a fairly even start. Japan's Yoshida and Yoshioka opted for the pin end of the line, but it turned out to be a bad choice as the gusts and currents were more advantageous on the right side of the track. No surprise that the majority of the fleet chose to sail to the right, although those tacking a bit too late found themselves pushed back down the fleet, including the 2012 Olympic silver medalists Mills and Clark, and Poland's Skripalek and Wozik. Amongst those sailing the shifts well and choosing the right tactics were reigning Olympic gold medalists Ele and Powery from New Zealand, and Brazil's Oliveira and Babachan, who along with Italy's Caputo and Paolillo had a significant lead as they went through the downwind gate. China's Zhu and Yu were well up in the top 10, but some mistakes during the second upwind knocked them back, and they finished in 12th, which helped to push them out of the overall leaderboard top 3. At the front of the pack, the order stayed the same, with the top 3 advancing their lead even further by the finish. Austria's Vadlau and Ogar secured another top 5 finish as they seek to put themselves back on the podium and at least match the silver medal they recently secured at the 470 Europeans. Three races were scheduled for today's second day of final series after yesterday's unpredictable racetrack, which spat out some up and down scores for teams. Today was all about consolidating. Amongst the 470 women competing here, and to all appearances looking very relaxed as they prepared their equipment this morning, are Olympic champions Ele and Powery from New Zealand, along with the young Dutch team of Kirenaku and Van Ven from Holland. With the breeze at around 8 knots by 1300 hours, the first boats were heading out to the racecourses. As the breeze steadily increased, teams made final adjustments to optimize their boats for the conditions. A review of the race course and a discussion with the coach to ensure the team have the right execution plan in place for this critical second day of the final stage. Just before the start, the breeze was up to around 12 knots. Into the first race of the day for the 470 Women Gold Fleet, and series leaders Leconte and Géant crossed the line as the second boat in from the pin end. Off the pace at the gun, Kirinaku and Van Ven were a bit further back. China's Yu and Zhu found themselves squeezed out between the two Australian teams and had no choice but to escape. During the first upwind, the breeze favoured the right side of the track, with the gusts and current giving an immediate advantage to the teams that chose right and arrived at the windward mark in first. Poland's Skripalek and Wozik round the mark first and headed to the reaching mark for the outer loop racetrack. In close pursuit were Olympic silver medalists Mills and Clark from Great Britain. 2 loops later, and the Olympic champions Alain and Powery had yet again exerted their dominance and claimed the race win and were back at the top of the overall leaderboard. Another solid result for Brazil's world number 2 ranked team of Oliveira and Babachan, who finished in 4th, upping their leaderboard position to 3rd overall. Onto the 470 men Gold Fleet, where most of the top teams opted for a middle-of-the-line start, with some up near the committee boat and tacking off virtually on the starting gun. Patience and Glanfield from Great Britain had a fluff start and were knocked to the back half of the fleet. As per the women's fleet, the majority headed to the right side of the track, with Austria's world number 2 ranked pair of Schmid and Reichsteiger extending their lead in the upwind charge ahead of the world number 1 team of Belcher and Ryan. New Zealand's Snow Hansen and Wilcox fought hard to claw back from their poor start and cross behind the pack along with Greece's Mantis and Kayalis to sail the right shift. A smart move, and after they tacked, the pair popped up to the front of the fleet. After the first mark, and Argentina's Calabresa and De La Fuente were leading, with the Greeks in 4th. A bit of a surprise to see the world number 1 Australian pair towards the bottom half of the fleet at the upwind mark, along with the French and British, a real change in fortunes for this upwind leg. A loop of the upwind-downwind track and the fleet headed to the reaching mark, with the Argentinians still holding their lead, but now with Japan's Matsunaga and Yoshida close behind in 2nd place, Broccoli and Hauser in 3rd, and the Greeks in 4th. Amongst the teams for whom national expectations run high are France's top 470 team, Labouchere and Lebert, Croatia's Fantella and Marinitz, who won the 470 Worlds in 2009 and hold numerous medals from World and European Championship, and of course the world number 1 pair Belcher and Ryan. All fleets completed 3 races today, and these are the final results. In the men's fleet, the French pair are leading with a 6 points margin over the Aussies, with Patience and Glanfield in 3rd. In the women's fleet, Alain and Powery are on top, with the French and Slovenians following. Friday is the last day of finals to determine the top 8 teams advancing to Saturday's medal race lineup. We are on to race day 5 and the concluding day of the final stage for the 170 teams. 2 races were held for all fleets, and up in the Gold Fleet the pressure was on the leading teams to post results to advance them to the top 8 in each of the men's and women's fleets competing in the medal race on Saturday. A blustery day with some massive wind shifts forced the race committee to hold off racing until the wind had stabilised a bit. Racing alongside the longer-term partnerships are some of the younger teams, such as Bouvert and Millon from France, who claim numerous junior world and European championship titles. Experienced teams such as Olympians Lindgren brothers, who finished 4th at last year's Worlds, Mantis and Kayalis from Greece are up against one of the youngest teams competing in the Gold Fleet, the brother partnership of Alex and George Cavas. Contesting the women's fleet are the world number 1 team from the USA, Hager and Provancha. The first start for the men heavily favoured the pin end. Olympic bronze medalists Calabresa and De La Fuente were not looking so orderly off the line. Also tacking off to the right were Mantis and Kayalis, along with Japan's Matsunaga and Yoshida. Series leaders going into the day, Labouchere and Lebert from France struggled to get off the start line and were well back in the fleet by the middle of the upwind. Onto the outer loop and downwind, the Lindgren brothers had an incredible lead over the rest. Second were Quiroga and Pequen, with the Americans McNay and Hughes in third. The order remained the same as they rounded the downwind gate, with Germany's Gerdsen-Vollmann also in pursuit. Following up were Greece, Argentina and France's Bouvet and Mion. Australia's Belcher and Ryan rounded the mark just behind the Greeks, but overtook just after rounding. Rock forwards to the finish, and Finland continued to extend and easily claim the win, with the Greek pair crossing in second to secure their best result of the final series. On to the second race of the day, and Croatia's Fantella and Marinits took the best start at the pin end, with the Australians and Greeks a few metres behind. With a storm approaching, Belcher and Ryan were the first to spot the wind shift left and moved into pole position, which they held to the finish and jumped into the overall series lead. Mantis and Kayalis finished in fifth and moved into second overall. In the 470 women gold fleet, in the first race of the day, America's Bolger and Shevitz took the best start off the pin end, and together with China's Zhu and Yu and Wang and Huan immediately tagged together to cross the fleet on top. Rechichi and Cook chose a start in the middle of the line and produced some great boat speed and sailed the shifts to accelerate through the pack. The right side of the track was clearly favoured, and the fleet headed over. France's European champions Lecointre and Giron were at this point in the race not looking very comfortable, and were going to need to work hard to stay in touch with the front of the pack. The Australians continued to outpace the fleet and claimed their second win of the World Championships, an impressive outcome for the 2008 Olympic gold medal Helm and new crew Cook, who was an Olympic rower in 2012. All change in the second race, with the Kiwis back at the front of the fleet to finish in third and safely advance the medal race lineup in the first overall, and with a helpful 11-point margin over the Austrians. Let's have a look at the final results. Behind the Kiwis, the Austrians are second and hold a 3-point lead over the third-placed French. In the 470 men, Australia leads with a 7-point margin over the Greeks in second, and Argentina another 6 points behind in third.
We have a really good day, we enjoyed, and waiting for tomorrow. I think the important in the medal race is to race your course and don't think so much about the other boats.
Ultimately the day didn't form in the way that the forecast was predicting, in the way that we were expecting, but you know, that is always the challenge with our sport. Our engine is invisible.
Medal deciding day, with the top 8 boats in the 470 men and 470 women events ready for the challenge of the short course 25-minute double point scoring medal race to decide the gold, silver and bronze medalists. Alette and Powery, the Olympic gold medalists, led the 470 women into the medal race, with France's Lecointre and Giron close on points. Belcher and Ryan were at the front of the 470 men, with Greece's Mantis and Kayalis just 7 points behind. The 470 men were up on the track first. Mantis and Kayalis were on their 5th attempt to win a World Championship medal, and the closest they have been for their goal. The 2012 Olympic bronze medalist Calabresa and De La Fuente are yet to secure a World Championship medal and faced an even tougher battle to step up to the podium, sitting 6 points behind the Greeks. After a high-scoring last day of finals, France's Labouchere and Lebert had their work cut out to claim a medal, with only a top finish set to guarantee a place on the podium. Belcher was on a mission to secure his 4th consecutive 470 World Championship title, so a fight to the end was on the cards, particularly with the Greek pair. The 470 men medal race got underway at 14:50 hours, with Greece finding the best speed off the line from their pin-end start. Argentina was right next to them, but unable to move ahead, tacked off to the right, which proved to be the right choice. The Australians, along with France's Bouvert and Millon, and the Greeks sailed to the left and were the last to tack. Leading the fleet to the windward mark, Labouchere and Lebert were executing their medal-winning strategy perfectly. Great Britain's Patience and Glanfield, who had an outside chance at a medal, were in second place, with the USA in third. Coming up to the mark, the Argentinians had to cross behind all the fleet and suddenly found themselves dropped from 4th place and in with a shot at the bronze medal to last overall. With the French leading, the silver was now in their hands. Onto the downwind leg, and the Greeks and the Aussies sailed fast and managed to recover. So by the downwind gate, while the French had increased their lead, these two were in 5th and 6th. A fierce battle was on between the Greeks and French, with Mantis and Kailis desperate to finish in 4th place to secure the silver medal, and the Australians chasing the Greeks hard in order to ensure their gold. The French were in total control and safely secured the race win with a massive lead, with the British in 2nd place and New Zealand's Snow Hansen and Wilcox in 3rd. Belcher and Ryan finished in 6th place, which was more than enough to crown them as the 2013 470 World Champions, a year to the day that Belcher became the 2012 Olympic champion. Labouchere and Lebert secured silver and the Greeks bronze.
This is a big one for Will and I. We had a bit of pressure coming into this week with great results this season, and to win your first World Championships as a new team, it's really special. Will sailed fantastic this week, and really happy where we're at. But to win my 4th straight, it's unbelievable, and we look forward to the future. And for us, it's a long-term target. So I think more relief than anything else.
On to the 470 women medal race, and all the teams chose the race committee end of the start line. A penalty for the Chinese 2012 Olympic team of Wang and Huang at the start of the race meant they started last. Austria's Vadlau and Ogar, along with Slovenia's Marak and Makarol, tacked immediately to the right, with the Austrians giving it their all to beat their closest rivals, France's Lecointre and Geron. An amazing upwind leg put the Austrians in the lead, with China's Zhu and Yu in 2nd place, Australia's 2008 Olympic gold medalist Reshishi and Crew Cook in 3rd, and the Kiwis in 4th place, and assured of the gold medal. By the downwind gate, Zhu and Yu had taken the lead, with Vadlau and Ogar now trying to outpace Allet and Powery, who were closing on in. Going into the medal race in 3rd, and with a 2-point deficit to the French, Vadlau and Ogar were desperate to keep a boat between themselves and Lecointre and Geron to secure the silver medal. Allet and Powery did not need to win the medal race to secure their World Championship title, but they won it anyway. China's Zhu and Yu crossed the finish line in 2nd place, with the Austrians finishing in 3rd to secure the silver medal. After their disastrous start, Wang and Huang managed to recover back up to finish in 6th place and deliver a historic moment for their country.
I guess we got the gold medal last year, and we stuffed up the 2012 Worlds as well, so we're really happy to knock this one off and get it off our backs. So yeah, we're super happy. Yeah.
A real celebration at the closing ceremony, with champagne spraying as teams were awarded medals. A special tribute to the gold medalists, who each received a trophy presented on behalf of François Hollande, the President of France. That was it.